don't know my story. They don't know my story. Nope, they don't know my story.
This is a place where survivors can be seen and be heard and be loved and be free. A place where no judgment comes into mind. This is your moment to shine. People gon' talk, yeah. Haters gon' say what they wanna say, but keep doing you, girl. Cause there will be a brighter day. People gon' talk, people gonna talk, yeah. And haters gon' say what they wanna say.
Hey girls.
Hi. Hi.
What's going on?
Hello. We are live, and I am excited today because we have an amazing show lined up. We have the Deliver Yourself from People. You guys asked for it, and we are delivering it. You know, we tried to do this show last week, and I don't know what was going on with the technical difficulties, but I am excited to be able to get Kenya and Nicole to come back and redo the show because she was actually dropping so much good knowledge. And I don't know if you know, but if you're new to the show, my name is Alissa R. Jones. I am a survivor advocate. I am the co-founder and the founder and CEO of Survivors with Voices Foundation. And we know that doing this show is much needed. And we also know that, you know, we have survivors all across the nation and all across the world that have a story to share. And I'm also excited because I have my co-host, none other than the Dr. Don, certified life coach, and joining me today on this topic. And I'm telling you, I have none other than Kenya Nicole. She is a powerhouse within herself. She is going to be sharing today about her toxic relationship and how she was able to deliver herself from people and from that relationship. And it's my sincere prayer that you are inspired by what you hear tonight. And being a survivor, you know, I always tell people it's a badge of honor. It's a badge of honor because nobody's been through what you've been through, but there's somebody that has a similar story to you, and your testimony is somebody's present. So we always encourage somebody to share their testimony. So Kenya, I just want to really jump on in. I know that you're on a limited time, but I appreciate you sharing your time with us. Once I heard your story and the purpose behind what you do,
Building businesses.
Yes, and I was so empowered by the why behind what you do. But will you tell the viewers a little bit about your story and the purpose you found after what you've been through?
Could you repeat that? It went in and went out.
I'm so sorry. I was telling you, you know, I know about your story and, you know, you had shared it on one of my platforms before, but just about your story. And I want you to share with the viewers a little bit about your story and the purpose that you found after what you've been through.
Well, a little bit about my story is after I don't want to call it a failed relationship. I would like to call it more so my love learning experience. After that relationship ended,
that's good.
I was in this place where I wasn't in the greatest of places, I'll be honest, because anything that, you know, because like I shared the other day when we were talking, I sort of looked at the relationship as this was my man of promise, especially with me being in a more mature place in life, emotionally and mentally. And because I was in a much more healed place, I thought that because I was better, I would automatically attract better. But there were some things unconsciously, subconsciously, that were still very present that I did not know were present. And in the midst of me being in that relationship and that relationship ending, I went through this period to where it was like a grievance, and I was grieving the loss of or the death of the relationship. And in the beginning, it was very hard for me. So what I end up doing is, for a moment in my life, I stopped going to therapy. And when this relationship ended, I had to, re-enroll myself to go and speak with the therapist, because I needed to process all these different emotions that I was feeling. There would be moments when I would be on a happy high, and then there would be moments when, especially because we had such a young baby at the time of the end of the relationship, I would be in this place where I'm like kind of started questioning, do I want to go back? And so I wanted to do the therapy for that and do some self-work for myself, and really just process those different stages that I was going through emotionally with that relationship ending. And one of the things that I've always done since I was a little girl is write. And I began to write out my emotions. And in the midst of me writing, praying, and journaling and trying to just process my truth, I began to write my story to the point to where I wanted to take it and make it this process of being able to address the things that God gave me as revelations. In the midst of me confronting my own truth, I thought that I was just processing and writing my story about my relationship with him, but God was really allowing me to confront my own truth. And there was this little girl within me I needed to love on. And this little girl that had been shown through my family dynamic that when people are not treating you the best, you love them anyway because they're family members, and you put up with it anyway. And we've all been a part of those families where we may have someone within our family dynamic that just cut up and cut a rug at every family function, and the family said, that's just Sheila, that's just Tony, and they just act like that. And I found myself my relationship saying, well, they just do that, and I can love them. I can love him to this place to where he understands that, my love is going to help change his bad behavior, or my love is going to help change the way that he treats me. When the truth of the matter is, God so loved us that it's a lot of us don't even treat him the way that he deserves to be treated. So I just had to come to the truth of in that situation that I was in, and own my truth, which the truth I needed to own was me dealing with that little girl that had been shown the wrong examples of what's tolerable and what you tolerate when it comes to relationship and when it comes to matters of the heart. And in the process of me writing, at first I was just writing all this frustration that I had with him and all the stuff that he did to me. And then God he started showing me, and I kind of didn't like what he was showing me about me. But in the process of that, he began to show me. And I was able to see that not only was I dealing with some generational things, he was dealing with some generational things, and it was time to rewrite the narrative. And I wanted to take my story. And I started working on taking my story, which is entitled "What I Survived Might Kill You," because there are some things that we deal with. There are some things that we deal with mentally and emotionally that if we are not sound in mind, it could be very detrimental to our moving forward in life. And so that's why I titled it that. And in me working on this project, it was one of the things that God used to help process and heal me. There were moments when I would get writer's block, and I thought that I was just having writer's block. No, it was because God was saying that this is something within the writing process I needed to sit with for a while, and I needed to work on for a while before he revealed what the chapter was. And I began to just reach out and trying to work on me sharing this story, because I felt like, okay, I wanted to do a short film, and share this story, but I want to utilize it not because I just want to, make money off of it, but I want to create a safe space to have conversation within the dynamics of Black families and the things that I felt a lot of African American love and relationships have been dealing with for years, and a much needed conversation needed to happen. I was able to start forgiving him in the process of that as well, because I realized that he was only giving to me what was taught to him. And I could not have an expectation of something that was not a learned behavior, that was a good behavior, but it was a learned bad behavior. And so he just replicated it because that's what was shown. And just like he was replicating, I was replicating what was shown to me. And I made that conscious decision within myself. It's time that I rewrite this narrative. So I began to release him because I was holding him like a prisoner to what he did to me mentally and emotionally, and was doing I would have these moments where we're co-parenting and I would be lashing out. And when I would get by myself, I would be like, well, what is that? Where's that coming from? How do I deal with that? Because my son does not need to be the carrier of our pain. Right. And that was the thing that just dealing with it, because as I began to assess my relationship with him, I began to assess every relationship in my life. And I realized one of the things that I needed to do was start setting boundaries, and that it's okay to have healthy boundaries in all relationships, because I had no boundaries. I was, in the beginning, I was upset with myself because there were red flags that were there that I did not pay attention to. And it wasn't that I was ignoring the red flags. I had no boundaries. Right. So I was putting up with a lot of things that, because I had no boundaries, I was letting myself tolerate certain stuff. So it just began to make me process me, the way I deal with people and relationships, and the type of relationships that I choose to allow into my space and give my energy in. And now if it's not a thing that it's not, if the relationship is not rooted in reciprocity, I don't involve myself. That way I find myself giving so much to where if you don't give to the how I give, I'm mad at you. So that relationship with him made me look at like every relationship.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me was expectations, because I could honestly say that in any relationship, not just a relationship, but you walk in with expectations. It could be from a past relationship, it could be from what you said, what you learned and how you learn to teach. So talk about those expectations and how you can just let go of expectations, especially when it comes to a relationship.
That was something that I had to actually become very mindful of and mature in my Christian walk. I had to mature because my expectations of others came from the prayers that I would pray between myself and God. And so when something looked like the thing that I was expecting God to bless me with, I began to just pour all of myself in and not really process, okay, is this a God thing or is this just a good thing? And so I had to start taking moments back and say, okay, I'm not gonna go all in these situations, and then God, I expect you to bless it when I wasn't even mature enough to know that I need to take these type of steps.
Right.
I need to have boundaries in place. I need to be able to be realistic and understand that we are all spiritual beings having this humanistic experience, and people can go into it and they may have plans to do really great, but sometimes life doesn't just always pan out like that. And so it's like now I know that in the dating process, or me sharing my love, or even me having, specific girlfriends that are just my good girlfriends, I don't transfer these unrealistic expectations over to them, and then I don't expect for others to give me what I'm not willing to give to myself, or that I'm not willing to give to them in return. And now that I have boundaries in place, the old me would not communicate when a boundary was crossed. The new me, I'm going to pull you to the side and we're going to talk about this boundary that was crossed. And I'm going to communicate it to you, not in a way that I am offended because you crossed the boundary, but that these are my set things of what it is that I, because we teach people how to love us. And so now that I know how to truly love me and celebrate me, I don't mind giving that to you. But in the same token, if we're in this type of relationship, I should be able to come to my good friend and have this conversation. Or I should be able to tell the man that I'm in a relationship what things are, and not, I used to be very passive aggressive to where I would let things build up and then blow out once you done did too much to me.
Right,
now,
me too.
I'm like, no. And part of that was because I grew up, I love my family, but I grew up around a time where adults felt like kids did not have much to say. And this is an adult situation and you be quiet and you don't say anything. And that can be something that hinders us in our adult life to where we don't know how to effectively communicate. And because that was my thing, I was finding myself holding on to like a lot of stuff and not talking about it when it was happening. It just would pile up like a basket of dirty laundry. And then once it's too much, then it's like it's everywhere. So those were like some of the things that God started.
And you talking about me, because I do that too.
About me and me. I was having relations with. Yeah, that was something. And then I started being, mindful of it. Once if I see myself doing it because I was trying to break the mold, I gave myself the grace to grow up in those areas where I was trying to make those changes.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
And you have.
So we have a question for you. Huh?
No, you can take this.
So one of the viewers, what's one main lesson y'all have learned about yourselves in the year of COVID? Kenya, you want to take that question and then I'll piggyback off of you?
Oh, okay. One main lesson that I've learned. The main lesson that I've learned is to not allow the circumstance to cause me to make desperate decisions through COVID. That's what I've learned.
That's good.
Yeah, I would say the one lesson I've learned through COVID and this year is how strong I am. A lot of situations have came in the sense of havoc. For myself this year, I left a toxic relationship. And so I could relate to the topic, but for me, it really taught me strength. It really taught me strength. So Kenya, as you move forward with walking away from your toxic relationship, what were some of the steps that you used to pick up the pieces?
One of the main things was the forgiveness. I would say I forgive you, but deep down rooted in my heart, it wasn't any forgiveness. And so I had to work through the process of really forgiving, because there were things that would come up that would be triggers, and it would instantly take me back into this place. And so once I start to recognize my triggers when it came to him, like whether if it's something that he said, and I found myself lashing out, and I'm like, okay, because of me asking, where is that coming from? I was able to see, okay, you said something that reminded me of the time when you did this to me. And if I recognize what that is, see it for what it is, so I can learn to let that go and just have something better with us, I have to have a relationship with him, whether I like it or not, until our son is, 18 years of age, or for the rest of his life, rather.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the things that was the main thing, was the forgiveness process, which was the hardest thing.
Yeah. Kim, you have a question, Dawn?
Kim says relationships are complicated. But you know why it's complicated? Because we don't go to counseling, we don't go to therapy, we don't communicate, we don't. Right. And then the other thing I think is important is you ignore red flags. We bring the past hurt into the future relationships. Kenya mentioned so many things because red flags, and it's interesting. And if we go back, we can talk about perpetual negativity, when they constantly want to keep you from doing things that are going to help elevate you. And it can happen very subtly. Like if Kenya's going to therapy, or Alyssa's going to therapy, right, to heal. And if he says, "Oh, babe, let's go to dinner tonight," that's very subtle. That's you don't even know it, but he's like, "Oh, he's being so sweet. Maybe I should miss one session." No. Then, right. "Oh, babe, you're working on a business plan. Oh, babe, you're working so hard." Anything, you have to pay attention. But Kenya, you touched it. I mean, you talked about you're in therapy. You talked about all give and no take, reciprocating relationships, and it can happen very subtly. Right. But don't, because Kenya, didn't you find like there's a double standard too? Sometimes they love you, and then sometimes they don't, and then you second guess yourself and say, "Did he really say that?" Right. No, he didn't say that. And then you go back to washing the dishes. Yeah, he did say it.
Yeah.
Right.
I literally went through that because my relationship prior to him was, he wanted me to be like an at-home mom, take care of the kids. He just believed that because that was what was modeled in his household with his mother and his father. And he didn't think that it was wise of me, wanting to have my own business, and he wanted to limit me. And then this particular relationship, he encouraged me to have my own business. He invested his money into me having my own business. He showed me that he supported me by any means necessary. And, life happened. We had a hurricane here in Houston that caused me to lose everything, where I had to end up relocating myself and inserting myself into his entire life, and in his town, away from my family, almost 2 hours away from family, away from all of my friends. I was beginning to be isolated. I was finding myself having to ask, "Can I please go to Houston for the weekend so that I can see my family?" And it was very subtle, as you mentioned, Dr. Dawn. It was the little things, but in the beginning, I was head over heels because he showed me that this adorable, loving, supportive person. And then once he saw that I was all into him, it's like little by little, he was beginning to pluck things away to try to make sure that he still held control. And it was okay if I did business, as long as I did business with him, and as long as he was involved.
Wow.
And if made business decisions that did not involve him, he would tell me that person was going to try to mess over me. That it was things like that. So you are absolutely right, Dr. Dunn. It did. It started off very loving, and then in the midst of, especially once I was pregnant with our son, it began to get a little bit controlling, where he was pulling things away piece by piece.
Lord.
Wow. Ooh, that's
Are you still
deep. In therapy? So, yeah. Huh?
Are you still in therapy, Kenya?
Yes.
You're asking Kenya?
Yeah.
Yes. And because of COVID, I love it too. Because of COVID, my therapist actually sends me text messages. We communicate through text. We set up the calls. And he has given me a lot of tools that I can utilize. And now I no longer, like I just shared, I got out of one relationship and then got into this next relationship. I think I may have taken maybe 5 or 6 months to myself. if I can be totally honest, I realized that I got into this next relationship because I really didn't want to deal with the pain of the relationship that I was letting go of. However, with this process, I've been single and just celebrating me for the last almost 3 years. I ended our relationship when our son was 6 months old. Kingston just made 4 the other day, and I've been single all of this time.
Okay.
Now, in the beginning of me ending that relationship, I caught myself. I was looking to dab back into an ex, and I'm like, wait a second, Kenya, repeat so for the radio. You already know.
Not that back into the ex.
You already know how that story is gonna end. We've read that book before.
Right? Mary, that's a Mary J. Blige album, girl. You got to walk to a Mary J. Blige album. Get out of that.
It's a familiar that we just like, you know what? Let's just go back to what's familiar. I know I've done it. So that's funny that you say that, because I've been in those situations where I'm like, I don't want to deal with the dating world. I don't want to get into dating somebody I don't know, having to learn them over. So I just go back to what I know, and I'm going to go back to my ex or whatever the case may be. So that's so funny that you say that.
Yeah, I literally took out the time. And because I was in this place where I was really not saying I'm healed, but like doing the work. And a lot of people don't tell you that when you do the work to heal, like it's ugly. It don't feel good. There are moments when I go to therapy and I feel great. And then there are moments when I go to therapy and I feel like the world is on top of me when it's over. But I stayed with the process. And because I was in the midst of that, when I found myself trying to dab back with this ex, I'm like, no, I would really be settling.
That keeps cracking me up.
I would be settling if I take this relationship. All love for him, but because of where I am, not the woman I am today, and where I'm processing to, I would really be settling if I go into this relationship, because I know that even though he may have treated me better than him, he still didn't treat me the way that I deserve. So, okay, I think I need to take a season of just dating myself. I need to take a season of just loving myself and really understanding the woman that I'm becoming, because I was becoming a woman that I wasn't even familiar with, and I can't share her with anybody when I don't know her. So I said, no, I'm just going to do me, and I'm just going to spend time with me. I would take myself to dinner. I would buy myself some flowers. I would buy myself something special, because if I can't enjoy my own company, I'm not ready to share my company with nobody.
That's right.
And I found my oneness. I found my oneness in my aloneness. And now that I feel like I went through that process, I've even been sharing with friends that once COVID is over, I believe that I'll go into dating at that time. But these last couple of years, I needed this time to myself.
Amen. But what's interesting? You're a mother. So also you're healing not for you, but for your son, because boys learn how to treat women based on how they see their mother. So if he sees a broken woman, he's attracted to a broken woman. He sees, so it's really not about, you're leaving a legacy. And that's important. That's
super important, because and to be honest with you, Dr. Dillon, that was my inspiration for it all, because I said that for my son to be, I'm like, God bless me with a son. So I feel that he's given me my son to be the mandate to break this generational curse. And in order for me to pour into him what is needed, I must heal, because I'm the first woman to love him. And I can't love him in this broken place to where I have these empty portions of myself, and I'm looking for somebody else to fill them. So now, okay, I need to take this time to fill myself with what's needed, so that I can give this little boy the love that he deserves, and not the hurt that his daddy gave me. I've seen a lot of times,
that's good.
I can be honest, within my own family dynamic, to where the marriage may end, and now the mother hasn't dealt with this pain. So the son that looks just like the father with his name is told, get out of my face looking like your damn daddy.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I just seriously,
I done said that. I done said that.
yeah, I just really
That's
wanted to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. How do you make sure your son doesn't grow up a narcissist?
So
Doesn't grow up like his daddy?
One of the things
you have, so, I mean, I'm not getting into like the custody issue. I'm just saying when he visits his daddy, how do you all are sharing custody. How do you make sure that doesn't, your son doesn't carry, how are you breaking the cycle though he sees his father who hasn't healed yet?
Yes, I have a couple of boundaries that I had to even put in place with his dad, especially because he's so young. And when they are as innocent as my son is, they see no wrong. But my son, you have to really know this little fellow to know this little fellow. He is so mature and he asks questions that amaze even me at times, to where it's not that it's just that I love him to this point, and then I explain things to him based on where he's at, not just because he's 4, but based on where he's at mentally and emotionally. And believe it or not, when I'm talking to him about certain stuff, if I say, "Do you understand me, Kingston?" He says, "Yes, mommy, I understand." You know, and because I had to explain to him why mommy and daddy aren't together. When little kid, he asked me that. Why? He said, "I want mommy and daddy." And I said, "Well, you have mommy and daddy." He said, "No, but I want to be at home with mommy and daddy." And I didn't say, "Well, you know, your daddy didn't treat your mama right, so he can't be here." You know? I'm like,
right.
Daddy lives here and mommy lives here. But here's the thing: mommy loves you so much, and so does daddy. So what we're doing is, because you got to go out there and spend time with daddy, and then daddy shares you back with mommy. So you do have both mommy and daddy. You just don't have us at the same time, but you do have us at the same time. I'm like, "Do you understand, Kingston?"
Right.
"Yes, mommy, I understand." You know, and then if it comes up, certain conversations come up, I have to talk with him based on how I feel he can process it. And I make sure that I don't say things in front of him about his father that are nasty.
Yeah.
And then if his dad is crossing the line in certain things, I explain to him, "Well, this is this, and this is what I need you to understand, because we have this shared responsibility." You know, I even found myself sending him a copy of, I found this thing, and I shared it on social media before. It was part of what they call the Willie Lynch syndrome. And it stated that the way that Willie Lynch wanted the mentality, it was our mentalities that he wanted to break. And so they wanted to remove the father out of the household. And they wanted the one woman to have a daughter and one woman to have a son. And they wanted the woman with the son to be so fearful for his life that she would transfer this type of fear onto him, that would basically, where she's coddling him too long and he doesn't walk into the full masculinity of who he is. And then the process was to raise the female to where she's so strong that she don't even think she needs this male in the household. And so I went up to him to explain to him that what me and you are dealing with is an issue that was here before us. And so now I want you to read this. And when you think about being crazy with me, I want you to understand that if we don't break this, this is something that Kingston would have to deal with. So I deal with him that way. When it comes to us, it wasn't right. But one thing I can't take away from him, he's an amazing father. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. Forgiveness, right? Too.
Yeah.
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 And hard.
So can you what?
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a hard conversation.
Yeah.
So Kenya, let me ask you, what would you tell that survivor that may be struggling with a toxic relationship with a person that they are codependent on?
The first thing I would tell that survivor is that we teach people how to love us. And until you love you, it's you should not look outward. It should be an inward looking thing. You know, coming from
Mm-hmm.
a faith-based background of church, it's like I had to go through this thing of where I needed to do holistic healing, where I no longer looked at the church like it was a hospital, to where this is a place I go because I'm hurt and now I'm crying and they singing me happy and they preaching me happy. And then I go home and I'm still dealing with my mess. I incorporated
Yeah.
because there is some psychological processing to the way that we think and we see that needs to be addressed. And like I said earlier, identifying triggers and things like that. So I would definitely tell them that it's about, we teach people how to love us, and that you can get through this, but you're going to need some help. You're going to need some professional help. And that therapy is a beautiful thing. I don't care what anybody says. Therapy is a beautiful thing. You may need to take time to figure you out and get you someone outside of your pastor to help you process what it is that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you have a good therapist.
Yeah, that's good.
And I like it. And actually, I like that it's a man. I like that it's a man. Because he's probably showing you something. I mean, I think it's a good thing, because usually women go to, and there's nothing wrong, man or woman, whatever. But I thought it was interesting. You're with a male therapist, so I can tell you're. Is he single, girl? Look, I'm talking about for me. Oh, Lord. But that's good, Kenya. I love it. I love the growth.
I'm gonna have to put it out.
Why not? Look, let me tell you. Why not, ladies? If he's smart, he's coaching Kenya therapy. He's smart. He obviously is leading her in the right direction, not telling her no foolishness. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with you, Don.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to know, because I'm still going through this myself, so I'm kind of asking for me. The aftermath of a toxic relationship, the process of detoxing your mind. Because see, I go back to those moments where everything was good, and sometimes because you ignore the red flags, you go back to the happy place, and then you have to remember the toxic moments to make you say, you know what, I'm not going back to that. So I've been trying to really figure out a process to detox my mind when it comes to the aftermath of a toxic relationship.
So one of the exercises that I was taught was I started reading a book on mindfulness. That's number one. And I was taught this exercise to where I could write out all the things that were good things, but I also had to write out all the things that were not so great. And then I had to write out, why was I feeling as though I needed to go back? Like, where was that coming from? And part of that was in me processing being alone, because our flesh wants somebody to hug it and touch it and rub it, all of those things. And I had to learn to hug myself and love on myself and tell myself it's going to be okay. Even if I had to do it with tears coming down my face, that it's going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You're going to be stronger because of it. My self-talk had to change. And then I started playing these audios at night before I go to bed. I started with the I ams because I needed to reaffirm who I was apart from him, because I kept identifying who I was with him because I was with him and we were building what I thought was this great thing together. And so now I'm looking for, and people were validating our being together because of we were working doing business stuff. And then I had to realize, okay, validation is for partying. Yeah. I cannot let myself think that I need to be validated by the union of being with this man. I am who I am, that I am, even by myself. Yeah. And just started processing all of that. Yeah. But yeah, taking the moment to write out those feelings that I was feeling. And why was I feeling these feelings? And being real with myself, not writing what I want to write on the paper. When I first started doing it, I was writing what I wanted that truth to be. And I would share those things with my therapist, and he would say, you're not being honest right here. I need you to write, don't write what you think I want you to tell me. I need you to write what's real. And so I had to get real with my true authentic self. And that changed everything when it came to those feelings that I was having.
That's good.
And it's hard in the beginning, but it gets better.
That is good.
Yeah. But I was not suggesting you date your therapist. I was talking about me. Oh, I didn't. I was not suggesting you date your therapist.
No, I knew Dawn was talking about her.
But I had to clear that up because people may be like, don't date the therapist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about for me.
Yeah, I knew it.
Okay, but other people, I just had to clear that up. Sorry. Yeah. Let's keep this right now.
Oh my God.
Seriously, I did not mean that at all. But I think
I don't know what I'm gonna do with you. We're gonna find you a therapist, honey.
They don't think it's abuse, Kenya, because it's not physical. Oh, well, he didn't hit me, so it's not abuse. So talk through that process, how you understood just because it's not physical, but it's still abuse.
What I understood was that it was that
emotional abuse is the worst.
Mental and emotional abuse is the worst because it's a process of you having to reprogram your mind. And I needed to reprogram how I was seeing myself because spending those years with him, I was questioning my worth and questioning what, some of my goals, because there would be things where he would be like, well, even when I left the relationship, he was like, what you gonna do? Go, you gonna go back to your grandmother's house? When you leave here, what car you gonna drive? Wow. That car is my car, and I'm like, okay, well, what car will I have? Well, do I go back and let my family see that this relationship has failed at this age in my life? Because I should know better. It is probably best that I stay here. It is probably, so I had to stop replaying what he was telling me.
Yes.
And it is. Once you stop seeing your value and you stop seeing your worth and you start questioning your purpose in life because of what he said, that is abuse. That is most definitely mentally and emotional abuse. And that is hard, and it's a process to heal from. I literally had to revert back to something that I did in my early 20s. In my early 20s, I was doing some healing work. Again, I love my family, but I come from a background to where the more verbal they are, they feel like if I talk really verbally abusive, you're going to do what I need you to do because I'm talking so verbally abusive. So because of that, I found myself about 26, 27, to where I used sticky notes and I found scriptures and other things that would affirm me. And I would stick these sticky notes everywhere, all around my house, on my mirrors, everywhere. And I would repeat them to myself. And then I would find myself standing in my mirror saying these things. And I would not believe the things I was saying. I knew I didn't believe them because I cried so hurtfully, even as I said these positive things, because they were not rooted within. But what I kept doing was kept repeating these things to myself, because I was taking out bad information and replacing it with good information, and that type of thing takes time. And so when I left that relationship with him, I had to revert back to that, because I said, I've gotten past this before. How do I get myself? I got to go back to the tool that I know that I used, to where I would stand in the mirror and say the things to myself that were needed, until I no longer cried as I said them, but I found that my voice would raise and my head would I would be happy until I believed them. And that was one of the things that I had to do. Yeah.
I think it's, I think it's just great because they control you. Your behavior is changing. They're controlling you, and you don't even know. It's not necessarily telling you what close to where your behavior is. They're affecting. They're controlling how you. Right. I mean, it's a whole. Your healing process. I just love it, and I can see a light. It's a different.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make y'all laugh.
It is.
It's funny to me now, but it wasn't funny to me when it happened. when it's funny to me now, but it wasn't funny when it happened. When we were together, I would love to wear my hair in this bun, that I would sit this bun like right here. And a lot of people would be like, you look so cute with your bun, you look young. He would tell me that I looked like a fool with that bun sitting on top of my head. So I stopped wearing my hair in that bun because I was like, he doesn't find this appealing. So I'm not going to wear my hair like this. I'm going to make myself, wear my hair like the women he's going out here, doing all this stuff with. And the moment that we ended that relationship and I began to do some self-work on myself, all I wore was a bun.
Okay.
Right? Take that.
All I wore was that bun because I'm like, my bun is cute. You knew this bun was cute.
My bun was banging.
Oh, Lord.
Well, Kenya, I want you to share.
That is, I like that. That's
where you realize.
That's a good story. Yeah.
The bun story.
Yeah. I like it.
Kenya, I want you to share a moment in your journey where you realized that you were here for a purpose. And I say that because I follow the inspiration you share on social media. I had the opportunity to hear you speak at one of my events. Actually, me and Don did, because Don interviewed you at the Let Me Love You tour. But there was a shift in your mindset. And I just know that your purpose is huge because because I know your path, but I want you to share that with the viewers, that moment that you realize your purpose.
Overall, or are you just saying like the moment I realized my purpose overall, it actually took place before even getting with him. But what I didn't understand was that God can show you your end while at your beginning, and you need to process to where he's taking you. There was a moment in my life when I was questioning my own worth. And at that time, God had me writing, and I was writing these stage play productions. And I asked him in prayer, like, what should I call this company? And he told me to call it A Woman's Worth. And so I was out here promoting a woman's worth, a woman's worth. The entire time, God was really working with me on my own worth. And what it was that and that's how I discovered my purpose, because I discovered my purpose in the midst of my pain, but I had to be processed to my place of healing. And it took time to get there. It wasn't until about 3 years ago that I understood, we say it in church all the time that his grace is sufficient.
Yes.
I heard the Holy Ghost whisper to me that same grace that I give you, I need you to give yourself grace to grow through this. I need you to give yourself grace to process where I'm telling you that I'm taking you. I need you to give yourself grace to where if I slip down and I fall, it's not at the point to where I need to beat myself up because I found myself, because I did that. When that relationship ended, it reminded me of all that work that I did in my early 20s. Like, why was I back at this place in my mid 30s when I did this work in my 20s? It was because I was still processing. And I needed to let myself process. But that's when I discovered my purpose. And, I'm going to go to Joseph in the Bible. He knew what God's plans was at 17 for him, but he still did not live in the manifestation of it until he was in his 30s.
Right.
And so, I discovered my purpose, and even the pain of that relationship, it was part of the process of what God, and I still feel that he's working on me day to day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I'm definitely walking in it. It's just, it's just like an onion dough. It's just layers. He just keep pulling back. And sometimes I cry and sometimes I laugh, but it's a process and I'm okay with that now.
Yeah.
But it's ongoing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's going to be ongoing.
Yes.
And people need to pay attention to the patterns, because you're in therapy, you took that charge and you said, okay, I've got to go get therapy. I've got to go get help. But it has to be. And I tell people, look at the patterns. When you're with an abuser, a narcissist, a toxic partner, one after the other after the other. It's something you're going to have to. What is it that you keep attracting these people and you keep falling into these relationships? Like Kenya said, it's an ugly process, but you have to get to the root.
Right.
And getting to the root is ugly. But if you're tired of that pattern, you're going to have to look at yourself in the mirror, and then you're going to have to get that support.
That's right.
Yeah, definitely. Kenya, you have a project you're working on that tells your life story. Tell us about that.
It's I spoke of it a little bit earlier. I actually end up setting the project to the side because I experienced a really great loss in my life in 2000 and the beginning of the year. Actually, I end up losing back-to-back death in my family. I lost my great uncle, and then 50 days later, right when we were getting ready to film, 50 days later. I lost my grandmother, and my grandmother is my everything.
Oh, wow.
Anybody that knows me knows my grandmother is my everything. And it hit me so hard to where, whenever you lose the matriarch of your family, it changes the family dynamic.
Oh, yes.
The crazy part about
it does.
The crazy part about it changing my family dynamic, before we had these two deaths in our family, God was putting it on me heavy to try to get my family to go to therapy as a whole family so that we can work therapeutically together, because I was in a place where I was seeing the results and I wanted them to experience what I was experiencing. And we didn't get to that place.
Yeah.
And things were a bit ugly at the beginning of us having that loss, but we've worked to something a little better now. But I end up postponing the project in the midst of that and putting things on hold. And God has finally released me of what it was that was holding me back. And it was some things that I needed to see too.
Good.
End up adding another chapter. Yeah. And we can expect, you guys can expect What I Survive Might Kill You 2021.
Yeah.
Yay! That's so exciting.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. So I got one more question for you, and then we'll wrap up the show because I know that you need to go. But this question is pretty much really important because it was sent in from one of the survivors. So they said, after surviving being in a toxic relationship, and say we focus on that survivor that is considering leaving, feeling like they have no support and they are alone, what would be your encouraging words?
I would encourage them to look for support in other places. A lot of times we're expecting the people around us to be our support, and sometimes you have to look outside of your circle, because part of the problem is the circle. So you have to look outside of your circle. So I would encourage them to look outside of their circle. My support in the beginning of me processing everything came from books. Books by T.D. Jakes, books by, Oprah Winfrey, books by Brene Brown. It just came from books in the beginning. And those books begin to inspire me and encourage me and help me heal and give me the courage to be able to go into a safe space and share with a total stranger my need for support.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah. I would encourage them to look outside of their for the support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
And sometimes,
so Dawn, you have any last words?
I would say
it has to be what?
Sometimes it may need to be someone you don't know. Don't say, you don't have to go to the church. I'm a Christian. I love the Lord, but you don't have to go to the church for that. You go to a therapist, counselor. Sometimes people feel comfortable. So if you feel comfortable, just start it. And if you don't know how, we are here. I will give you referrals. Alissa, say, Alissa, I saw the show. We can't read your mind and we don't know what's going on. But you have to reach out. It is no judgment. It is, trust me, it is no judgment. If you're watching or if you know anybody, I have people that will eat. We have the resources and we can send you people. Don't be ashamed. And it'll stay confidential.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely.
there are resources.
Definitely.
Lord Jesus. Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to take the time to speak to that individual right now that may be in a situation and feel that you have no support or don't know where to go to get through the effects of fighting depression or having thoughts of being a failure from walking away from any toxic relationship. People are losing their lives because they choose to stay. And you have to take the opportunity to connect to somebody. You could connect to an organization like Survivors with Voices Foundation, founded by myself. And I want to thank Dawn. She's a certified life coach. You can always reach out to her. She has resources. And sometimes me and her both say we stay in our lane. It gets a little bit deeper for us. We'll refer you out to a therapist.
Right.
But I also want to thank our guest, Nicole, for really taking the time to share this evening and bringing her wisdom to our viewers. Because I think you dropped a lot of nuggets on your story that can really help that survivor push through actually leaving a toxic relationship. And I always feel when we talk about these topics that if it's just one, that we have saved a life.
Yeah.
And we pray that, we encourage you and we want you to keep fighting and keep surviving. So we want you to stay connected with us via Facebook and social media. Our next show will air on Monday at 7 p.m. And again, I just want to thank you, Kenya, for sharing your wisdom, taking the time out tonight with our viewers. And thank you, Dr. Don, for being a co-host. And we're going to wrap it up. If you have any last minute questions or concerns, definitely shoot us a message, email us, and definitely connect with us. Again, I want to thank you guys, and we will see you next time.
Alissa, did she see me? Alissa.
Yeah, she sees you.
Yes.
Okay. There's one other resource that may be helpful to them that's online. There's a group called Writing for My Sanity. There's a group called
Excellent.
It's called Writing for My Sanity, where the instructor of the course deals with a lot of different type of writing prompts that allows them to get in tune with some of the things that they're feeling. And it's a really amazing writing group. And
Can you type that in the chat, Don?
Yes.
Yeah, it's right on Facebook called Writing for My Sanity.
Okay. Writing for My Sanity.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah, just type that in the chat.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that, Kenya.
Yeah.
Writing for My Sanity.
I'm doing it. Don't worry. I just have to make sure it's spelled right.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Okay. Well, again, I thank you guys for coming on. And like I said, Kenya, get home safe. And I thank all of the viewers for tuning in. We really appreciate you tonight. And thank you for participating in your questions and comments. We love you.
All righty. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
She was dope. Oh, I need it in the comments. What I need. Oh, she was dope.
Mm-hmm.